Greetings of peace and greetings of love to everyone. You know, we were thinking of celebrating the International Day of Yoga, and in the Brahma Kumaris with some good friends and senior yogis, we're reflecting and wondering how can we really present what we do when we practice Raj Yoga. And very often yoga comes as postures of the body, but the heart was speaking, and we felt that there was a story to be told, a big story, a great story. And then the thought came that yoga sometimes is just about connecting the heart with the divine. And I know we all have sometimes fluctuating relationships with God. You know, it works, it doesn't work. But yoga, in the real sense of the true depth of meaning of the word yoga, is about loving the self, loving God, and loving the world. So what we wanted to offer you was really a journey, a great journey of experience. And yoga can be described sometimes as a posture of the heart. So the greatest love story of all time is the story we all are looking for. This is the story we've been living in a way, and this is our story. So in the next hour, you're going to listen to yogis sharing their own personal journey in their relationship with God. And you're going to watch and listen to some artists expressing that love in their own way. 8 postures of the heart. A strange way to look at how yoga can be a connection between the soul and the supreme. But most importantly, it's the greatest love story of all time. And it is our story. Really, we believe that it is each one's story. When we start, seeking, searching for love, then we find God, then we celebrate. But then, watch something happen along the way.
In my experience, life is such an extraordinary journey. From my earliest memories, I seem to be seeking. A part of me as a child was happy, but a part of me was always on this search. It was like I was yearning for something which I wasn't quite sure what it was. Maybe I could even describe it like a deep grief in the soul that something was missing. And in my teens, I embraced religion. But I found I couldn't really connect with a God that was authoritarian, judgmental, and punishing. And so I let go religion, but I didn't let go the yearning or the grief for something that was missing in my life. And at the age of 20, I traveled the world. I went from Australia through Southeast Asia to India, to the Middle East, to Africa, to Europe, and settled in London. And on this journey, without a conscious decision, I spent time with Sikhs in the Gurudwara. The Sikhs have a wonderful practice of taking in travellers. I spent time in a Buddhist monastery. I'd go begging for food with the monks. I lived with Muslims during Ramadan. In India, I bathed in the Ganges. I lived with a yogi in the Himalayas. I went to Dharamsala and spent time in the Dalai Lama's home. The search continued. In Europe, I lived in a Christian monastery for a while and also studied the Jewish religion. The search continued and I settled in London. And this yearning was still there. This sort of feeling of something missing was strongly with me. And one day I was walking the streets of London, absorbed in my own world, absorbed in my own thoughts, thinking about me, who I was, and who I belonged to. And it's like time stopped, and I stepped into an eternal moment, and I felt absolutely, completely loved. It's like love connected to the core of my being and radiated to every part of me. This was a love I hadn't tasted before, and I felt I've come home. This is where I belong.
That was the day everything changed. Nothing would ever be the same. I was the only one who knew it because there was nothing to show on the outside. I had simply been sitting in meditation, going through the preliminary steps as I was a relative novice to meditation. And the thought encouraged, I'm a soul, as distinct from the body. And the aim was to connect with that supreme source of energy. And suddenly, without any lead up, a laser beam of light was touching my forehead. My eyes were open. And this entered my head first, physically, and my mind, my consciousness, my feelings. All of me was absorbed by the power and the beauty and even the love that this energy, which was other than mine, was emanating and communicating with me. And then that same light in the form of almost like wires began shooting out, first from my forehead and then from all parts of me, even while I'm glued to the floor and looking straight ahead. And I knew it was God. God had found a way, finally, to get my attention. His words, his sound didn't do it. But the intensity of the feeling of bliss, joy that's beyond the senses, just overwhelmed me. And I was lost. And in that same instance, I was found.
Yo tenía una vida normal, como la vida de cualquiera. De hecho, tenía también a alguien en mi corazón. Y de pronto empecé a meditar. Cuando empecé a meditar, me encontré con un mundo increíble, un mundo nuevo. Pero no solamente eso. Empecé a enamorarme. Empecé a enamorarme de este ser precioso, con una energía increíble. Que empezó a voltear mi mirada hacia lo más brillante, lo más positivo, lo más puro. Empecé a sentir que mi corazón empezaba a tomar dimensiones cada vez mayores, que yo no podía ver el mundo más como lo veía antes. Y empecé a enamorarme de Dios. Empecé a sentir cómo este amor inmenso, infinito, llenaba mi corazón de una manera única. Podía sentir que rebosaba en su energía, podía sentir que que podía como sumergirse en sus olas como si él fuese un océano de amor, que podía danzar en esta dicha maravillosa de sentir esta conexión que nunca en mi vida yo había experimentado, porque es una conexión de almas. Yo estaba sintiendo que encontré al amor de mi vida, no solamente de una vida, yo siento que encontré al amor de la eternidad. Es una experiencia maravillosa. De hecho, cuando la hablo, cuando te la cuento, estoy sintiendo cómo late todo mi corazón y cómo esta energía tan fuerte me toma, me lleva a experimentar una dicha que va más allá de la experiencia de los sentidos físicos. De hecho, estoy en este cuerpo, estamos en estos cuerpos, pero siento como si no estuviera. Muchas veces siento esta felicidad de poder incluso tener un cuerpo físico para poder expresar lo que siento en forma de danza, en forma de dar, en forma de amar. Es una dicha maravillosa, ha transformado mi vida. Siento que es un momento único en el que yo estoy pudiendo explorar todo este amor infinito para poder también compartirlo, pero sobre todo mantenerme esta conciencia constantemente limpia, constantemente mirando el mundo desde la mirada de él, pudiendo sentir que está presente para mí, que es mi compañero, que me hace ver la vida desde un lugar completamente nuevo, desde un lugar completamente creativo, desde un lugar puramente silencioso también, desde un lugar lleno de amor. Me siento embelesada, me siento encantada, siento que es un amor mágico que transforma todo mi ser. Me siento feliz.
Fogo do amor, vou girando, entregue a sua direção, seguindo seus passos, deslizando, sem tropeços para cantadora e te escolhi para exaltar na melodia da pureza, o único que puxa o meu olhar e nem disfarça, sequer vacila, nunca me trai. Sou uma alma trovadora, com você a me inspirar na harmonia da beleza, o único que pode me acalmar. Sempre me guia, sempre me eleva, sempre me atrai.
Wow, watching this beautiful dance and the expression of the heart, filled with that love. I know sometimes it's strange and we think people are, are they real? Are they connecting really with God? We know when the experience is so strong and we want to hold on to it. We want to keep it. But we know that this is not just love to be experienced as love and just keep dancing all the time. There's some work to be done. Yoga is also about transforming, healing the heart. And this is something that is amazing because when we create that connection and we experience the love of God, the love for God, we know that that love is doing something in the heart. It's a posture of the heart, but it's also a way to transform the heart in such a way that you want to become like the one you love. And this is what relationships is all about, isn't it? That you love someone and you want to just get so close and close to that being that you feel there's an exchange of qualities, an exchange of virtues. So this is the purifying process that takes place in yoga.
On the path of meditation having started, it was a very beautiful journey. It was the experience of new revelations every single day. As I studied the teachings, I was gaining new insights. As I meditated, I was having new experiences. I was beginning to see the different facets of the personality of God. The aspect of love, the aspect of truth, the aspect of joy, different experiences. And so meditation was never dull. It wasn't a task. It was a joy. It was the experience of moving forward in an adventure and knowing that every single day was going to bring something new, something different. And of course, I had the companionship of Daddy Janki. And that was very, very beautiful because she was explaining in depth different things that I had only understood superficially or I hadn't understood at all. And so that made a huge difference. But also I was seeing transformation happen within my own personality and character. I could see both sides, the dark and the light, and I knew that the power I was receiving from the divine was such that I would be able to deal with all the dark aspects and transform them. And I also knew that the aspects of goodness that were there latent within the soul, but I hadn't actually experienced them or connected with them in such a powerful way, I was able to start connecting with them. And together with that, of course, my own value for myself began to rise. I was experiencing this process of purification and movement forward every single day. But also, I could now see the connection between inner change and the transformation of the world. And I understood that as I removed my own inner negativity, everyone around me would be impacted by this, and those vibrations were changing the quality of interaction and relationships. And I could see that, yes, together we were able to move forward and create a better world for everyone. A world filled with God's love and truth and joy and beauty. A world of justice and harmony.
We all know that in the greatest love stories, there's always some drama happening. Now, what about our relationship with God? Do we have also drama going on? I think most of us will relate to the fact that at some point, that love is bright and shining like pure gold. And then one day you realize that maybe something happened. And we call it sometimes the posture of drifting. When the yoga is not working the way you expect it to be working. And then questions arise. We wonder. We have doubts. So it's natural to sometimes get away. But most of the time it's just to come back even stronger after in the relationship.
And then it finally happened. My greatest nightmare came to life. That early rush of that pure, magnetic, powerful, beautiful love of God came to an end. It started to fade away, and I started to question God's love. Was God's love really like all human love? That inevitably one day it would run out? I started to feel rejected, abandoned, and alone. I started to question myself, and I started to question God. Did I attract all this? Was I the one distancing myself from God? Is it me? Is it Him? Does God not love me anymore? Does God not want me by His side? Was I not good enough? Was I ever not good enough? All these thoughts started to capture my mind, and doubts and fears begin to fill my mind. And then suddenly, I find myself attracted back to the material and mundane world. That world that is full of quick fixes, false attractions, easy glory. I could feel that I was losing that connection. The connection with God was becoming weaker and weaker. It was becoming fleeting now. The connection that I felt before, that was immediate, that was straight, that was simple, that was clear, that was powerful, that was exhilarating, was not there anymore. And now it felt like I had to labor to connect. It was like an uphill struggle. It was like going to fetch water at the well, but only being able to draw a few drops. And I was getting tired. The soul was getting tired. But what could the soul do? And yet somewhere deep inside I knew that God would not let go of me. I just knew it. I could feel it in my gut. I needed Him just as much as He needed me. He was my guiding light in the darkness. He was that support when I needed Him most. He was carrying me through all my troubles. He was wiping my tears. I still had hope. So on occasions I would feel that glimmer of light, just like the light that tries to creep through the dark grey clouds. I could feel God's light. I could see that God was trying to win me over again. And I was really rebuilding that trust. But it was I had to gather my strength, and I had to return. It was I that had turned my back onto God, and I had to return back to Him. But those were uncertain times, and the fears were overwhelming. And in those moments, I would just sit in silence, and I would feel God's presence.
Hello, greetings from Nairobi, Kenya. My name is Kieran Barathi, and I'm a practicing architect. But I'd like to tell you a little story about returning to God's love. This is a little section of my whole journey, and after initially making contact and being filled with a connection and love with God, I decided to try an experiment and see if I could replicate that love outside in the world. And so I did. For 2 years, I tried several ventures. I created many relationships, but all of them left me slightly disappointed, left me even hurt sometimes. And I came to the realization that this point in time in the world, unfortunately, is determined and driven by the power of fear, by the power of negativity. As all of this was happening, in the back of my mind, I always felt the gentle pull of God's love, and the memory was always there. But I was determined that I could do it myself. But by the end, I was left drained, exhausted, and actually hurt. And I couldn't help it. I had to return. I had to return to the source. And so I did. And as soon as I did, as soon as I gave in to the power of God, I re-engaged with that ocean of love, the ocean of power, the ocean of bliss. And I realized again that the only true relationship that I can have that is unconditional in love, in peace, in support, in wisdom and power is with God. And this is where I belong, with God.
दुनिया का बोझ अपने सर से उतार दे, समर्थ को सौंप सब, तू उसका प्यार ले। प्रभु प्रेम में मन मेरे हर गम बिसार दे, छोटी सी जिंदगी हंस के गुजार ले। जब तू बना सुदामा सच्चाई की ताकत से कश्ती उबार ले हो छोटी सी जिंदगी है हंस के गुजार ले दुनिया का बोझ अपने सर से उतार ले समर्थ को सौंप सब तू उसका प्यार ले प्रभु प्रेम में मन मेरे हर गम बिसार दे छोटी सी जिंदगी है हंस के गुजार ले हो छोटी सी जिंदगी है हंस के गुजार ले हो छोटी सी जिंदगी है हंस के गुजार ले
Hello everyone, greetings of peace. Poetry's always been a part of my life, and any beautiful metaphor can play with my heart and mind in a unique way. The expression of love, which is the essence of our relationship with anyone, can be best expressed, at least for me, poetically. The deeper meaning of yoga, of course, is the relationship that I have as a soul with the one who is my beloved, my mother, my father, my teacher, friend, guide. So many relationships are possible. And we've been asked to explore the different postures of the heart in connection with these relationships. I remind myself every day that I'm a spiritual being going through this human experience, not the other way around. And in meditation, I can naturally relate to God, who's similar in form, but not in attributes. Still, it's what I have in common with him that I can use as a bridge for my heart-to-heart conversations. And in this exchange of love, I really feel that I can fly beyond the reaches of the physical world. I feel that the language of God is about love and silence rather than words. Even so, a beautiful image, a beautiful metaphor can bring me closer to a deeper meaning and keep me flying, soaring in the meditation. Early in my meditation experience, I realized that there was nothing to lose and everything to gain by engaging in it. By throwing off the chains that were weighing me down, I started to have the lightness to see who and what I am. And sometimes I feel very inspired not only to put these feelings into poetry, but also into music. So I'll sing a part of a song that I wrote called Sunlit Space. And I wrote it after a particularly exhilarating experience when I realized for the first time that I was in love with God, that he was there for me through thick and thin. I didn't think too much at the time. It was just a deep exchange of loveful feelings. I was bathing in his light. But after coming back, I put these words on paper and then to music.
The freshest rain could never bring the change of heart that you have brought in me. The sweetest song could never say the words of love I want to say to you. I wait upon this sunlit space, my one. Your voice so gently calling. the sea could never fill the empty parts that you have filled in me. The strongest force could never break the link of love that you have showed to me. I wait upon this windswept place, my one. My heart is flying, soaring. You wait upon your golden throne of light. Your voice so gently calling me to your land.
Now we're starting to understand why we call this story the greatest love story of all time. And we know that the magic that happens when the soul and the Supreme Soul are together. And when we were discussing about these postures of the heart, we found that the last one was really the most fascinating, the most intriguing. What if the soul, when it's really in deep connection of love with the Supreme, what happens really when we almost disappear? We say sometimes, you melted my heart, but it's more than that. It's the whole identity, it's the whole I that tends to melt in that love.
Of all the things I treasure in my life, I think the thing I love most is to meet my lover, the lover of the soul, the one who's known as the divine, the supreme God, and much more. And to meet the lover of the soul, I have to prepare myself, because my lover lives beyond in a world of sweet silence, like a radiant jewel of light. And to get there, I need to let go my limitations so I can really resonate on the same frequency. So I love just to sit quietly and withdraw, step back, and let go of all that which is limited in me. And when I do that, I find I start to sit just so lightly in the center of my forehead, the eternal soul. And then I become present in front of my eternal lover. It's like I enter a silent world, but it's a sweet silence, it's a warm silence. And in this beautiful silence, me and my lover, I just feel this divine love emanating from this soul. And this love flowing over me, flowing into me, flowing into the core of my being, to a point where I just feel healed. It's like I feel free. I feel absolutely liberated from something old. It's just like such a sense of closeness and belonging. And in this state, I feel so still, like I'm beyond time. It's just resonating, belonging, experiencing. The quality of this love I feel you can't find anywhere else. The purity of this divine love can only be experienced from God. It's like I disappear into the love of one.
Eyes, the windows of the soul, the meeting of hearts through the eyes, the journey of seekers over centuries, restless in our human identity, weary of the world and the old self, yearning for higher grounds. The journey begins with one step and then another. A vague memory of something better, more pure, a perfect love, an inner memory that keeps you moving forward until the moment hoped for but still a surprise. You catch the fragrance of what you were looking for. Face to face, heart to heart with love, with the beloved, and it takes your breath away. Through your divine eye, you experience beauty, love, truth, the perfect relationship. The heart is at peace, slipping into the depths of stillness, into light, connected to the One, with a deep attraction of love, like a moth to the flame. Everything falls away. Your vision is on one. You surrender, merged, held in the pure light of love, long lost, eternal love.
Wow, there's so much beauty in those eyes. And, no wonder when we know that the eyes are the window to the soul, if we fill the soul with that divine love, well, no wonder why there's so much light coming out of the eyes. So we've been listening to really touching stories, very personal, very intimate stories. But what about yours? Is this the greatest story of all time that we're living, the one that we've been seeking? We've been trying to share with you what really burns sometimes in our heart when we practice yoga. And yoga is not just a posture, really. It's also something that we live on a daily basis, every day, in our relationships, in the way we think, in the way we connect to the world. So our wish for you is that those stories become a great inspiration so that you keep writing your own story, because these stories of love, they never end.